Hello and welcome to the Man O'Clock News. My name is Michael Gray and I'll be your host. Today I wanted to speak about Japan's herbivore men, a social phenomenon captured by a local CNN reporter, depicting what it's like for Japanese men and how they are perceived by not pursuing relationships with women and why. So let's see what CNN has to say. Japan's herbivore men, less interested in bedroom fun and money. Tokyo, Japan CNN reporter. They are young, earn little and spend little, and take a keen interest in fashion and personal appearance. Meet the herbivore men of Japan. Former CNN intern Junichiro Hori is a self-described herbivore. Author and pop culture columnist Maki Fukasawa coined the term in 2006 in a series of articles on marketing to a younger generation of Japanese men. She used it to describe men who she said were changing the country's ideas about just what is masculine. In Japan, sex is translated as a relationship in flesh, she said. So I named those boys, because she doesn't consider them men for some reason, herbivorous boys, since they are not interested in flesh. Typically, herbivore men are in their 20s and 30s, so she says they get over it somehow, and believe that friendship without bedroom fun can exist between men and women, Fukasawa said. Yeah, of course it can happen, of course, because the woman denies him romantic and physical presence, aka friend zoning, and he keeps doing stuff for her and giving her time, attention, validation, and other favors, depending on how unenlightened he is. Fukasawa said, the term has become a buzzword in Japan. Many people in Tokyo's, let's move the mouse, Harajuku neighborhood were familiar with herbivore men and had opinions about them. Shigeyuki Nagayama said such men were not eager to find girlfriends and tend to be clumsy in love, and he admitted he seemed to fit the mold himself. He's basically downgrading men and in himself. He finds that acceptable to lower himself. Let's see what the quote says. My father always asks me if I got a girlfriend. He tells me I'm no good because I can't get a girlfriend. Again, reinforced onto men that they're not worth much and not really a guy if they don't have girlfriends. Midori Saida, a 24-year-old woman sporting oversized aviators and her dyed brown hair in long ringlets, said herbivore men were flaky and weak. We like manly men, she said. We are not interested in those boys at all. Takahito Kaji, 21, said he has been told he is totally herbivorous. Herbivorous boys are fragile, do not have a stocky body, skinny. I'm going to show you some other origins and articles, okay? Now, on Quora, a famous website that shares knowledge, like asking questions and people like answer, I'd like to read a couple of responses as to what's the percentage of herbivore men in Japan. By Anonymous. I personally support herbivore men. They are right in playing safe and not hurting themselves by involving in relationships. I like how they are not bothered by what society thinks of them. They are free to live their way of living. More than 50% of Japanese young men are reported to be herbivore. It's mainly because they want to avoid trouble. With the percentage of nice and considerate women decreasing day by day, these men are clever enough not to destroy their lives by avoiding dating, etc., etc. I'm going to skip over this one because I think that's not anything to do with it. Now, this guy wrote a lot, okay? A lot. So I'm not going to read all of it. I'm sure you can Google and find what's the percentage of herbivore men in Japan? I can't disagree with any of the answers here. I would like to add some information I read about this subject, however. Part of this problem, in my opinion, is third wave feminism that engulfed most of it, if not all of the Western world. Even if these Japanese men or any Western men type are interested in women and make a move finally, they are facing a couple of realities. He's talking consequences. They are facing the reality that unwanted attention by a woman now can be perceived as harassment, when in reality it most likely is that the guy was just displaying interest and the woman is in question doesn't like this particular guy and doesn't want his attention. Yeah, apparently cleavages are only meant for some men that have the approval. The rest will be shamed and insulted for noticing that gigantic tray that they're offering their bobs on. Better Bachelor. Joker. YouTube channel. Now, in the age that we live in today, all men in the West, I would say celebrities too, as I just recently saw how Brad Pitt is getting divorced from Angelina Jolie because essentially he got a bit mad of just doing whatever she wanted. That means he's kind of like a dog, I'd say a lap dog. And no disrespect, Mr. Pitt, as you've done a ton of great movies, you are a great actor, but I got to call it out as I see it. So all men in the West today are kind of like second-class citizens, and thus when that happens, in my opinion, women aren't in general lose physical interest in men because men for a very long time in our society were objects too. To this very day, my friend, they are objects. One proof? Look at plus-sized models celebrated, and then find me a plus-sized male model, like in big signs, outside and posing with their pot belly and man bobs. You won't find them. Double standard right there. Men, the men though have been for a very long time power object, or at least go-getters, meaning ambitious. Since of course just how society works, where there can only be a few people in it at any one time with any real power and authority. Real power and authority, let's translate it to womanese, 6 figures and above. Take that away now, and I think a lot of women are turned off by men because they are still conditioned to see power and authority as attractive, thus they feel herbivore men that don't even have any of this don't display masculinity. I think you give them too much credit by making them anthropologists and researchers. They just don't see what they need/want in men ideally. Great looks and body, ton of cash, and status. Let's see. Add on to the fact that their societies no longer truly allow them to compete on any kind of fair level. Out of this nanny state extreme protectionist mentality that somehow if a lot of men are allowed to be ambitious, that somehow that means they will dictate the real rules in society again and make women's lives miserable. First of all, that's just 1% of men, or 5% of men. Most men are average. Most men earn according to the great Kevin Samuels, $42,000 a year in the U.S. He's talking about black men, but I think other colors are not so far away from that. It continues, and don't believe me? There was a recent survey from about a year ago that asked young Japanese women, say of prime baby making age between the ages of 18 and 23, how much they expected their potential partner, who mind you just graduated maybe in a world that just has had a horrible recession, and just graduated, how much they expected them to make straight out of college. Okay, now he has a point. He's got points, but I want to move on to the next area. Wikipedia, of course. Let's take a look at that. Herbivore man or grass eater man, I'm not going to pretend to know how to read this. Soshokuke Dongshi, I don't know. is a term used in Japan to describe young men who express little interest in getting married or being assertive in relationships with women. The term was coined by author Maki Fukasawa, the one from CNN, intended it for describe a new form of masculinity or lack thereof that was not reliant on the proactivity and assertiveness typically associated with masculinity in Japan. Philosopher Masahiro Morioka defines, according to Fukasawa, herbivore men are not without romantic relationships but have non-assertive, indifferent attitude towards desires of flesh. Let's look at etymology, like where does the term come from? Although the term herbivore men does not have a universally accepted definition, I wonder why. There are a few defining characteristics for herbivore men that seem widely agreed upon. Now, this is largely because the traits associated with herbivore men are defined by popular culture and media rather than through academic fields, as demonstrated in the contrast between the perspective on masculinity that Fukasawa intended to convey and coined the term compared to its current connotation. Like, currently, what is it connected to, how it's interpreted. Social stigma. Indifference to marriage and committed relationships have been an observable trend in many socially and economically advanced societies. Well, no Schmidt, lady. Okay? Japan's unique labor market, structured around supporting salarymen as well as its recent economic decline, have been cited as reasons for the rise in herbivore men. Now, if you look into it, you'll see that Japan is also extremely dropping in the birth rates, which I'll cover in a different video about global birth rates and how they're dropping currently. And how society actually says why this is happening when I gotta credit the manosphere and the propagation and giving of knowledge to other people. Japanese women might be further discouraging men from entering into relationships. Well, at least they're owning it. The decision that many herbivore men to stop working because work and marriage in Japan are so interrelated may have made it more difficult for these Japanese men to find marriage. Many women refuse men who do not have steady jobs. Other women feel that self-proclaimed herbivore men are weak and not masculine, while some men apparently are not attracted to independent women. That's also in the Western world, where women decided to be more masculine in their energy and their behavior and in their pursuit of certain things like career over family and such. In a 2011 poll of Japanese boys aged between 16 and 19, 36% described themselves as indifferent or averse towards having bedroom fun. The figure for girls in the same age group was at 59%. 59. Look at the disparity. Morioka argues that the Japanese herbivore men are results of Japan's post-war peace. Since the end of World War II, which was 70-something years ago, Japan has not directly participated in any war or conflict, either within its own borders or outside of them. Prior to this time of peace, many Japanese felt that becoming a soldier was the only approach to becoming manly. Let's see in here. A common misconception people hold about Japan that it is a weird place, particularly where male-female relations and bedroom fun are concerned. The stereotype is padded with images of middle-aged men playing actualized role-playing games on PlayStation and kinky ladies in pleated high school skirts and knee-high socks, fooling nobody. The often derided Japanese man is held up as a singular creature among the men of the world. He, unlike his Adonis-like counterparts in the West, with their great big bulging biceps and metrosexually perfected body, is laughed at and mocked if he decides he no longer wants to take part in the mating game and retires to his quarters. When a Japanese man goes MGTOW, he's reviled as a grass eater, herbivore, or so shukudanshi, no relation to vegans. Now, in a reversal of status, the Japanese herbivore man is praised online by sections of the meninist community as visionary heroes. Solitary soldiers who have denounced a morally bankrupt society going their own way by bravely forging a new, more enlightened path ahead. MGTOW is an acronym for Men Going Their Own Way. MGTOW is a part online community, part men's therapy center. It is not centralized or organization, but an idea that flits in and out of existence. Well, maybe online. According to Relevance, it's the haven that men seek when they feel alienated in a new postmodern feminist Western culture. See, this is a mishmash between, oh yeah, feminism did that, and men are smart not to participate in a game like this. MGTOW comes to life online when Procter & Gamble releases a new Gillette advert, PR statement about how society must correct toxic masculinity. MGTOW also becomes too real for comfort when incels like Elliot Rogers take a gun and shoot people up because he can't get bedded. See, this is called conflating. We take two separate entities like MGTOW and one seriously mental ill incel, and to say that a mentally ill person now represents all of these men who don't want to get married or get into relationships. It's not true. It's inflammatory. It just causes more disconnect between groups in society, and it causes more of a divide. I'd like to end this video with a few words. You can see that even through people who are for MGTOW or against MGTOW, you can see that there is a common line of logic that you can see for yourself, and that common logic line, you know you found it when it aligns with your personal experiences.